Hi, it's Ashley Dack here, the insurance mom. I'm sitting down today with Philip Millar from Millar's Law in London, Ontario, prominent lawyer in all things criminal, liability, personal injury. So I had a couple of questions in my DMs, and one of them was a person had been charged with a misrepresentation on their insurance, and they wanted to know if there was any avenues to fight that, because the insurance company is basically shutting them down, saying it won't. And as you know, with insurance quotes, if you have a misrep on your record, it stays on there for 6 years, and basically only the facility can insure you. So with this insured, he had done an application while living in Brampton with his mother. In the space of the year that he had insurance, he actually had moved to Orangeville to live with his aunt. He had changed the address to Orangeville. And once living in Orangeville, I guess he stayed at his mom's house a couple nights a week. And something happened where I believe he got into an accident, and they realized that he was actually living in Brampton more often than Orangeville, and he hadn't changed his address.
And this is important because your insurance is tied to where you live based on accidents. So,
Based on your postal code.
So I imagine there's a lot of people who will try to play with their postal code in order to get a better quote.
Yeah.
And so are you saying that this is a potential, if they find out that's true, they can put a report on your record?
Yeah, so anytime you don't tell the insurance company of details of your life, whether it be a new driver, an address change, you're using Uber for your car, anytime you don't disclose those details and the insurance company finds out, they can cancel you for misrepresentation. And misrepresentation is basically the harshest charge in insurance because it stays on your record for 6 years.
Where is this record held?
It's on your Auto Plus. Auto Plus is a claim and insurance history report that we run.
Is that controlled by the province of Ontario?
It is controlled by the auto insurers. So the insurance companies report these details we use something called CGI. There's also another one called Dash. So the auto insurers report claims, insurance history, cancellations for non-payment, even the drivers in the household, the vehicles in the household.
So it's kind of like a credit bureau for insurance?
Exactly, for your claims histories. And so if you are canceled for misrepresentation, it's like, if you don't pay your insurance premium, you get canceled for non-pay.
Yeah, and I imagine different insurance companies enforce it differently, you know what I mean? Because they think there's a misrepresentation, they ask a couple questions, and they can probably just conclude it was, but you don't really have a trial on it. Like, how can you defend yourself from this conclusion that you misrepresented?
Exactly. I have this customer has gone back to even the manager. I believe he was with Allstate, and he's gone back to the manager and asked the manager to review because he wasn't getting his mail. He didn't get any of the registered letters. So he's asked him to review it. And his next step is the ombudsman. But I wasn't sure myself if there was any other legal venue for something that happens if he can't get it reversed.
So he kind of wants to appeal the determination that he's been found guilty of misrepresenting. Well, there has to be, just off the top of my head, there has to be a mechanism of appealing that, which I think you would do by way of writing to the insurance company. And then if they don't respond, then you go to the ombudsman. And then if the ombudsman doesn't do something, the next level could be asking for judicial review if you want it, or if it's that big of a deal. The problem is the organizations have all the power, and citizens, it takes a lot of time to do that. So I would think putting a request for review in paper, outlining why, which I don't know what happened before, and then if it doesn't happen, then go to the ombudsman.
Yeah, because basically Nordic or Facility is the only company that will insure this gentleman, and they won't offer him any physical damage coverage, and he has a leased vehicle.
And that's because he misrepresented the postal code?
Yeah. Because obviously Brampton is a much higher premium than Orangeville, right? Brampton, there's so much more going on in Brampton than in Orangeville. So there's a lot of people who do use different postal codes, which we, obviously we look down on because it's insurance fraud when you're using a different postal code than where you're living, right? That's why we always ask for the ownership and the driver's license to confirm the address. Well, when an insurance company has a feeling that something's not right, then they ask for major bills to confirm the address. And if you don't have any major bills, they cancel you for misrep.
Why wouldn't it just be the address on your driver's license?
Because some people will use their family member's address, but they don't actually live there. So they don't send their cell phone bills there. They don't send any of their other bills there. They just use it as a place to have their auto insurance.
Yeah, so probably the insurance company would want utilities bills because I could send my cell phone bill anywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
But they'd want to see where you're in your postal code. They want to see that you're paying at least utilities because you need to pay utilities.
Or like a renter's, like a lease agreement, anything like that. And when you don't provide that within the time that they ask, then they cancel you.
So the question is it worth paying $50 a month for electricity in terms of the savings on your insurance policy?
I mean, yes, I always tell everybody to be honest. I say the best thing to do is be honest because like when you get this kind of a misrepresentation charge, it really does stay on your record for 6 years.
I don't think a lot of people know how bad that can affect them in terms of future costs. I think most people are like, I'll just put down. And you know what I think? I've actually come across insurance brokers who are like, oh, you have 2 addresses, just put it there.
Yeah, not me.
And then that advice, although would provide short-term savings, could provide huge long-term.
And wouldn't that also maybe be an E&O claim?
Against the broker, yeah.
If the broker advised them to use one address that they weren't actually living at?
There's a lot of brokers are being exposed to litigations under E&O these days for not advising on benefits and all that stuff.
Absolutely. We were just having that conversation with one of your employees. Yeah, she said that she barely sees anybody come in with increased accident benefits.
Oh yeah, even though they should.
They don't even know about them.
Yeah, and these are because we have a personal injury department, and you don't need those things until you need them. Exactly. You know, but I think we've discussed that additional accident benefits are priced pretty low for the benefit, that it's probably a good idea to do it, but your insurance broker should be telling you, look, if you get in an accident and you can't work and you make a lot of money, you're going to be pooched because income replacement is nothing.
It's $400 with the standard. And I have this conversation with everybody that I quote. I always ask, would you like any increased medical accident benefits? Every single person. And half of the people I talk to say I've never even heard of that. They have no idea.
Do you have a nice chart to kind of show the difference between?
I don't have a chart to send them. I send them to the fiscal website or the FSRA website now, and it kind of breaks it down for them exactly what it is because I can explain it, but sometimes people need to see it in front of them.
How many people are buying it when you tell them about it?
Like maybe 5%.
Even when you tell them
Even
about
when
it?
I tell them about it.
All right, so maybe we need to work on your sales pitch. Sell me increased accident benefits.
Okay, so significant weekly salary. If you were to stay with the standard accident benefits, you would get $400 a week. Do you think that would be enough to cover your expenses?
It wouldn't be, no.
So you can increase to $6,000, $8,000, or $1,000.
So $1,000 a week is the highest?
Max.
So it's kind of like the equivalent of $50,000 as opposed to $25,000.
So it's not covering you for your actual salary, no matter what it is. It's only covering you for a max to $1,000.
People understand when you get into an accident in Ontario under the no-fault regime, your own insurance will pay you income replacement benefits starting at $400 a week up to $1,000 a week. Yes. You can recover your lost income from the accident if it was the other person's fault and you sue them. That's called
Litigation. Yep.
Through litigation, you can get your financial losses recovered. But in this no-fault regime, which just seems like a beautiful BS regime that the insurance companies have put through, so they don't actually have to pay you for what you're losing.
Well, a lot of people don't understand what the no fault means either, right? No fault doesn't mean that you're not at fault if you hit me in an accident. No fault means that if we're involved in an accident, my insurance company is going to cover me and your insurance company is going to cover you unless you pursue litigation against the other company.
Is there any type of insurance that allows me to buy full income replacement benefits under that?
I would think it would be through your medical or something like that. There's some benefit you can buy through your employer, I'm assuming.
But you don't sell anything?
No, okay. We don't have anything for that. The max is $1,000.
Let's turn it. I'll sell you additional accident benefits. Okay. All right? And Ms. Stack, welcome to the office. Thank you for coming by and considering me for purchasing some insurance. The problem is you're too nice. So you sell people, like you give them too many options. But what you have to say is, these people absolutely should have it, and my job is to make sure they have it. Whereas you're like, hi, how much do you make? Would you? Right?
You know why it's like that, though, in this climate is because nobody wants to pay anything more than they have to, especially with the prices of auto insurance.
So you're a working mom, right? Yes. You're getting insurance to make sure that you're not exposed to any difficult financial hardship in the event of an accident, right? So that you're getting insurance to protect your family, right? Could you protect your family if you got in an accident and couldn't work for 6 months and only got $400 a week?
No.
All right. So then there's absolutely no reason for you not to get additional benefits because you're buying insurance to protect your family for $25 extra a month.
Yeah, I don't know how much it is, but yeah.
$25 or $40 extra a month, right? In the event that you get into an accident where you can't work, you're at least going to get $1,000 a week instead of $400 a week, right? And to me, actually, working in this industry, that is probably the best return on investment for your dollars in insurance, because a lot of people don't buy it because they don't think about it. And insurance companies don't make a lot of money off of it, so they don't sell it to you. But I'm telling you, as somebody who protects people for a living, that this is the best place for you to spend your dollars. Would you like to get this?
Yes, I have it.
But do you see the difference in the selling? You're buying insurance to protect your family. There's no sense buying insurance and then not having enough to survive because you're trying to save $20 a month.
I know. It is a difficult conversation, and almost immediately people put a stop to it. And this is why I read an article in Canadian Underwriter the other day where they're saying that in July of next year, they're thinking about getting rid of all of the standard benefits, where you would have to buy up every single benefit. So you wouldn't get anything standard. Everything would be a buy up.
Like an a la carte?
Like an a la carte, but that scares me because different insurance companies could charge different amounts for the same thing, right? Like income replacement with this company could be $400 a year. With this company could be $800. So there's going to be no set standard charge for that.
This is why I think the insurance broker has almost more of a role to play than like a mortgage broker, because insurance companies have so kind of gamed the system in their advantage in Ontario. People don't understand. Like the insurance regime is one of the worst places to get into an accident is in Ontario in terms of what you're going to recover. And so trying to do it yourself, the insurance companies are very sophisticated billion-dollar corporations that know how to sell you what's the most profitable products and not the best for you. Yeah. That's why you need an expert who can navigate what the insurance companies are doing to give you the best.
Of course, yeah. I mean, people who call in, they don't really realize most of the time what their coverages even are. Like when I'm having conversations with people and I see somebody with, let's say a 2021 vehicle and they're trying to save on insurance premiums and they say they want liability only. I'm the first one that's explained to them what that actually means in terms of getting into an accident, what they would be covered for, what they wouldn't be.
Okay, what does it mean? Because I think liability only just means that if I get sued, they'll cover me. But if my car is written off, I won't get it back.
That's right, yeah. But even in cases where, let's say, it's a hit and run accident, you don't have coverage when you have liability only. When it's a single vehicle accident, obviously we know because it's at fault. Any at fault accidents, fire or theft is not covered.
In liability.
Yeah, in liability only. You're based.
So liability only is only covering your ability, right? So like you would do it if you had a beater that's not worth replacing.
But let's say you have a young driver and you want to save on the premium. Let's say you have like a 2005 or something and you don't care because you could replace that tomorrow. But when somebody comes to me with a newer vehicle.
And it's trying to save money. So in Canada, different than like Florida. In Florida, you don't have to have insurance.
No.
So in Canada, you have to have a minimum of $1 million liability.
I don't even know if it's a minimum of $1 million. Is it? I only sell $1 million.
Yeah.
I don't sell anything less.
But that at least protects people if they get hurt by somebody in a car accident. Whereas people
your legal fees, right?
People don't know if they go down to Florida with their car and they get hit and injured badly. That driver might not have any insurance.
That's right.
And you're SOL. But so you can buy. Can you sell people insurance if they're going down to Florida for 3 months to drive?
Well, if they're using their own car, they would be covered under the Canadian insurance because it has to be like you can be a snowbird. So basically, if you're gone 1 day less than 6 months, you're fine.
But what if I'm using my own car down in Florida? Somebody hits me, and my leg gets amputated, and they have no insurance.
I don't know the legal ramifications of that. Like your insurance company would cover you for the damage and the
accident benefits.
Yes,
but they wouldn't cover. I know there's an uninsured fund.
Uninsured motor. Yeah.
Right. So I think that Canadian fund would apply. So
yes.
The beauty of Ontario or Canada is, if somebody hits you who's driving without insurance, even in Canada, even though in Canada there's a reason it's $5,000 fine if you drive without insurance.
Yeah.
There's a fund called the uninsured
motor,
uninsured, which will pay up to $250,000 in damages, which is not
huge.
$2 million, no. But it's something.
It's not. That's not a lot.
Bottom line is, if you're spending a lot of time driving in the States, you should consult your your insurance broker to figure out what your coverage is, because state to state it varies greatly in what they have to do and what you can get.
Yeah, even if you're renting a car in the States, I always suggest we have a coverage I always suggest the insureds to buy the best coverage that rental car company offers. If they have a coverage on their policy called the OPCF 27, they can extend their coverages from their car to the rental car. And that way you still have Canadian insurance.
So this is an area that confuses me, because when I travel, like I have a Platinum Amex, which has, and if I use it to book, what I think I'd want to know, or what maybe some of your listeners want to know, is what are the credit card coverages for rentals if I use the card? Because I feel that insurance most of the time is kind of a ripoff. That's just my belief.
Yeah, that's
Is
okay.
that they're always trying to, it's
Get
like
money.
warranties, selling aftercare warranties. They are high profit instruments for the companies where they're making a huge money on it. Like buy Apple Care, you know,
Yeah,
it
never
can make
use it.
sense, but like a warranty on a crappy TV for an extra $200, like
Yep.
that's almost pure profit based on what they pay out. But when I go to an insurance company, a car rental company, it's almost like they make you check 6 boxes.
Well, the
to
problem,
say.
they charge you $30 a day for rental insurance, right? Through them. But on your regular policies, there's a coverage that covers that rental insurance, and it's $40 to $45 a year.
Yeah,
A year.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that it is a ripoff then. So then why
With
would
the
I
rental
buy,
car, yeah.
Why would I buy rental car insurance?
Yeah,
But
I know.
didn't you say you just told them to buy the best rental car insurance?
Well, if they're in the States and they don't have that coverage on their policy, yes.
Okay.
But if they have the coverage on their policy, then they extend that, because you can only extend it to Canada and the U.S.
Okay. So anybody who travels to the States should ask their insurance broker,
Yes.
do I have coverage for U.S. travel on rentals?
Liability to unowned auto, yes,
Right.
yes.
That's it. So
Big time.
everybody should know that if they travel. And then the next question that I want you to do something on at some point is do some content on what credit card
Yes.
insurance does. If I use my Amex Platinum
it's
to
so
rent
different.
a car, I think it's different between credit cards.
Everyone.
But if you kind of were to get like 4 major credit cards, show what the coverage is,
Yep.
and then show what Hertz is offering. And then maybe we could save people a lot of money from buying
Yeah.
these $30 a day things. But in some cases, I wonder, you know what they make you do is, this is how clever MBAs try to get you to spend extra money. It's like, by clicking here, I acknowledge if there's any damage to the car, I will pay them immediately in cash.
Yeah,
Do you know what I
it's
mean?
crazy.
Which, because people are like, I have insurance. And they're like, so now they're saying, no, if there's anything, it doesn't matter. We're not going to go through what normal people do, which is standard insurance. You have
Yep.
to pay us cash. So they're trying to impose upon you. And what you don't know is you could dispute that on your credit card bill.
Yeah, the charge. Yeah,
The
yeah.
charge.
Yeah.
You just say, I have, that's not coming out. I do it. But I wonder if they put it onto Amex, and if Amex is kind of insuring me because I booked it through Amex, if they would take it off, or you know what I mean? Because you know what's annoying is they can just arbitrarily say, oh, there's a scratch on the front fender.
Yeah.
You're paying us $600. I'm like, no, I want a formal estimate.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? But it gives them the power to impose this. This is where you have to be.
Which is where I also, wonder if Amex would make you pay, and then they would pay you after.
Yeah. But
Right.
who's, but then the car rental company is just arbitrarily deciding the amount.
A number, yeah.
Right?
Well,
Without it going through a car repair estimate.
yeah,
And,
we just rented a car recently, and we take videos of the cars before we rent them, because we've had an experience before where they wanted us to pay for damage that was already there. And the guy that we were doing the spot check with takes us around, and he says, and I said, oh, look at all these scratches along the side of the car. And he says it's from the vacuums. When they bring the cars back in and they vacuum the cars, the hose drags along. But I wonder how many people don't notice that and get dinged for that charge in the end.
That'd be an interesting kind of undercover operation
Right?
to see how much money they're making off of vacuum scratches.
It's crazy. And he was just so like, it happens to every car. Like every car is scratched on the side.
But you know what it reminds me of, because I go to the States a lot, now when you return at a busy airport, you just kind of drop off, leave your keys in, say
You don't do
goodbye,
a check.
right? And I'm not there for them doing the check. I think because they're busy, because there's a difference between what's enforceable and what's inconvenient. So if they were to say there was a big scratch after and put a charge on,
Yeah.
you could fight it and say, no, I was there, I did a walk around, and I told the guy, am I good? And no, it wasn't identified.
Yep.
So you'd say that scratch happened after I left the car,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
but big corporations know that that's often too much hassle, and people are intimidated, and they get legal language, and so
Yeah,
they
they
just
get
end
scared.
up paying, right? It's kind of
Yeah.
like the parking ticket thing. is
They just
that-
want it to be done with.
It was interesting. The other thing I think people have to know is, because I did it with my kids, you don't want to be nonchalant about buying your kid a car and then just calling them an occasional driver.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I think everybody wants to do that or does that. What should people be aware of in that?
So I have many people that call me where, let's say, the husband has a business vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So the husband has a business vehicle that has to be insured on a separate policy because it's in a different name.
Mm-hmm.
So they call me trying to have the husband and wife, they have 2 cars on their personal. They call me, they say, okay, we have 2 cars here. My husband's going to be a principal, I'm going to be a principal, and my son is going to be the occasional. But they don't disclose that they have the business policy where the husband is already a principal operator.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, the number of drivers in the household, if it matches the number of vehicles, everybody has to be a principal. So it's hiding drivers, right? So they try then to put the husband on the vehicle and the son as the occasional when the son is really the primary, which is another form of misrepresentation. So anytime there's a material change in risk, the insurance company has to be notified.
Yeah.
So basically, the way that the Auto Plus is that we talked about before is we can see every policy that's in force. So at the time when I'm binding a policy and I run that Auto Plus, I can see the husband's business use vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So then I go back to them and I say, well, we see here that he has a vehicle already where he's a principal operator. The son has to be a principal. And then they go to some other broker and try it.
Can the other broker do it?
I mean, if they're not disclosing it, they could, but I
don't
won't.
you see it? No, but don't they see
Yes,
it?
but some brokers decide not to. They want the business, they don't care.
Okay, but if you can see it, the insurance, somebody who reviews it can see it when there's an accident.
That's right.
So what you're doing in that case is buying insurance that is going to be ineffective.
Exactly.
Because, so you're buying insurance to protect your family. Mm-hmm. If you're buying insurance because it's cheaper and it doesn't protect your family,
What's the point?
It's essentially a cash barbecue.
Yep.
But in your mind, you're like, oh, it's $100 more over
Yeah.
there. I'm going to go over here where it's cheaper. Because you don't, like, and believe me, if insurance companies can find a way not to pay,
Oh, they will.
they will do it.
Yes.
They're a cold-hearted business, right? Mm-hmm. And then I guess you could go to the broker, but if your kid gets into a major accident and you've kind of played that game, your kid could be sued.
Yep.
There'll be no insurance company. There'll be a default judgment against them for $1 million that will follow them for the rest of your life,
Yep.
their life. Or the parents could get sued.
Yeah.
Because they facilitated the insurance fraud.
It's not worth it.
No.
And I do make sure when I catch something like that, I tell them the ramifications and I say, you know what, you might be saving money over there, but in the end, it's not going to be worth it when you need your insurance.
Yeah, I think from what I've seen from some of the quotes you've done for our clients is you actually get them down to the best price, a better price anyhow with proper coverage.
Yeah.
As opposed to. But if people just go online and are shopping, they're going to get ripped off on their insurance.
Well, because there's nobody there to verify what they're putting in. There's nobody there to say, hey, you could use $2 million instead of $1 million, or you could use accident benefits, or, people are very internet driven these days, which is, very convenient. It's a great way to do it. However,
I think what people have to be aware of too is that, and I was talking to some other lawyers about this, insurance companies are very clever about making money. I think a lot of them would love to sell you insurance that you're misrepresenting on. Because essentially what they're doing is just getting free money.
yeah, they don't have to pay anything.
Because they're not going to have to pay you if anything
Yep,
goes wrong.
exactly.
And so you think you're clever. Ooh, I'm going to be clever and switch my postal code and do this. And so now I'm paying $270, but that $270 instead of $360 to the insurance company is way more valuable because that's $270 without them having to
They're
underwrite
never
anything.
going to have to pay out on.
Right? So that's just pure profit. And your brain thinks, oh, I'm saving. There's certain things you buy at the dollar store. There are certain things that you do properly.
Yes.
And that, I never thought of it that way, but it's hilarious how they'll sell you these policies and allow you to misrepresent.
Yeah.
Because if they wanted to make sure you didn't, they could do that.
Yeah, like I do.
Yeah. No, but you do
Yeah.
it because you actually understand insurance. You care about the client.
Yes.
And you're actually buying insurance.
Yes.
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 It's not insurance if it won't insure
you.
That's funny.
Yes. I don't do insurance for the sale. I always say I might not be the least expensive, but my end goal is to give you the best coverage and to actually insure your needs.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be, the cheapest out there all the time, because maybe then you don't have the best coverage. But with me, I have a set coverage that I like to offer everybody to make sure that they are properly insured.
Yeah, we understand people are on a budget, right? So they don't want to spend more than they have to, but they have to understand what have to is.
What's
so you
the
have
point?
to spend to be insured.
Yes.
If you're just spending to get a card in your car so you don't get a ticket,
Yeah. What's the point?
That's very expensive. You're spending $270 a month so that you don't get a ticket for no insurance. But you're not really insured if there's an accident.
Yep.
So
I also had another conversation just last week with a client who came to me with 2 vehicles and a house. And I very happily quoted everything. And as we get into discussions, we realize that the husband actually needs a commercial policy for his vehicle because he's transporting his tools, some supplies sometimes. She had never been asked any questions on that at all. She has a business that's registered to her home. And the insurance companies have to know that. That's all part of your disclosure. You have to tell the insurance company these things about what happens, right? So it's extra phone calls. But if they didn't know about it and they wouldn't insure it, if something happens to your home burns down, they realize that you had a business registered to the house, they can deny a claim.
you don't get your new home.
Exactly. You're out.
I would bet that 90% of people haven't had the proper discussion
Yes.
about insurance. They've just bought it from somebody who's interested in moving products. So
Yep.
I'd be
Based on the
interested in
conversations I
comments
have.
when you post this on your Facebook page of how many people are comfortable that before listening to this podcast that they had the right insurance
Yeah.
compared to afterwards.
And I find it's actually easy just to say, hey, can I quote you both ways? And then you make the decision in the end. Right? Like, I'll quote you with full coverage, full accident benefits, and then I'll give you both. And then you can make the decision if the $20 a month extra is worth it or not. Right?
So do you offer free kind of insurance reviews? Like, let's say somebody listened to this and they're like, okay, well, I don't really know what I have here. You know, I guess they could go to their own broker, but if
Yes.
their own broker sold them garbage, they're probably not going to be that
Trusting.
excited about telling you that.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like an insurance second opinion?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're coming to me for a quote, I always ask if you want to send me your current documents. First, I want to see what kind of coverages you have, right? And I want to offer better coverages for less. That's the only reason why I want to see it. But if I do find somebody that I find has or is lacking insurance coverage, I'll tell them.
You know why it's important to me, even like as somebody who's trained in law, I hate reading insurance contracts.
Who does?
Yeah.
Who
Well, I
reads
guess
them?
you have to be, but they make it. This is what the consumer has to understand. It's made deliberately to be exhausting.
Boring.
So it's not easy for you to know what your coverage is.
Yep.
And that's where, I don't know if you do this, but it'd be amazing if like there was like a cover sheet that went on whatever the insurance binder is or whatever that just says, just so you're aware, this is what we purchased you. Here's the 5 things you need to know. This is the coverage you have. You know, like something that explains it in simple talk for a reference point, because we've had people come in injured and then we're like, okay, and just even the legal professionals going through the insurance policy to find out, it's just annoying. Like, it's not easy.
Well, when you get your renewals or your new business, typically they have like 2 pages of coverages where it will show what liability limit you have. If you have collision comprehensive or all perils, it'll show your accident benefits. So it isn't that hard to read when you get the documents. What's hard is when they send you the 12 pages after the documents and you're like, what does this even mean?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, we know it because we know the wordings and we deal with it every day. But for regular individuals, they would have no idea what it means.
All right. Work with professionals. Don't buy insurance at the dollar store. Like just imagine anything you bought at the dollar store and how long it lasted.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
Short-term savings,
Yeah.
and then you throw it out.
Yeah.
Do you sell like event insurance or
Yep.
short-term stuff for people?
Yep, we do event insurance. We actually had a hole-in-one program before for golf tournaments. We do all of it. Yeah, commercial insurance, everything except for life. Not
Birthday
yet.
party insurance?
Yeah,
Weddings?
weddings.
Do people buy birthday party
Yes.
insurance?
Some
Why?
people when they're renting a
wedding.
hall,
Yeah.
and the hall requires it. Yeah, wedding
interesting.
insurance often. Even like events downtown Toronto, the youth days or whatever, we do insurance
That's kind
for
of
them.
interesting, eh? So I'm just thinking all the weddings I've gone to, but you rent a hall, they have kind of their standard insurance. But if at your wedding, everybody's dancing on the dance floor and
Collapses.
putting champagne in the air,
Yep.
right? Or if somebody in the wedding party is doing it and then somebody slips
Or
and
breaks.
their back, who's responsible for that person's injuries?
Yep.
It's interesting. Like, so you as the wedding party organizer could be
Who
sued.
rented it? Yeah, you would be
Yeah.
the named insured.
If you have a wedding planner, they may have insurance if they kind of orchestrated it.
If they work that into their price, maybe.
Right.
But I wouldn't think they would want to take on that liability.
Yeah, but then if just a bunch of drunk groomsmen start like, everybody shoots
Yeah.
a champagne bottle and it goes on the dance floor.
Yeah, or like it breaks and somebody.
Is that what insurance could cover
Yes.
in case you're sued on that? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people know about that. Like,
Really?
If they're doing it on their own somewhere or something. Like when you go
Yeah.
to a hotel, right? Mm-hmm. It's interesting. The hotel would be responsible for making sure their own
Insurance
facilities are clean and well done. But if
Yep.
somebody in the wedding,
But I think most places these days require it.
yeah.
I think if not all. I mean,
Okay.
even like parks require event insurance.
Do you find there's a big difference in price on that?
The only difference that I find on event insurance is whether alcohol is involved or not. Typically, they're pretty cheap. They're like $200, $250 for an event liability policy. But when there's alcohol involved, it gets a little bit more expensive. And it's also based on the number of people that are coming.
All right, something to consider. What else comes from your audience in terms of questions?
I had a funny joke question.
Okay.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah.
If somebody breaks into your house and you're armed, are you going to be found? I think we heard about this in Milton. It was last year or the year before, where somebody broke into the house. The gentleman had a gun and used the gun and was taken to jail. He was later cleared.
Yeah.
But
I did a post on this as an ex-prosecutor, so this is a
Did
question.
you?
This is a question a lot of, maybe you can link it in your notes on it, but this is a question a lot of Canadians ask because in America they have, in some states, stand your ground policy, which means if somebody comes at you
Yeah.
and you can actually use deadly force. And it's actually, there's this understanding that you don't have to expose yourself to danger if somebody's encroaching on you.
Yeah.
And that stand your ground means you can actually shoot somebody who comes onto your property.
yes,
So that's
trespassing.
that's a bit Wild West, right?
Yeah.
Canada has a much more modest approach to it where you have the right to self-defense in Canada, right? The question is always degree. So I say this like if somebody comes at you with a baseball bat, even with police officers, when I have taught police officers on use of force and rules of engagement, somebody uses a baseball bat and smokes 3 police officers and they're all lying on the ground bleeding and you get there and you're pulling your gun and he's got the baseball bat in his hand and then he drops it, right? Can't shoot him
No,
because he's dropped
he
it,
dropped it. Yeah.
right? In America, they shoot people running away in the back, like, and you can use deadly force in very particular circumstances if you knew somebody was a serial killer or a terrorist running away and they wouldn't stop.
Oh, you mean
But
police? If they knew that was
right?
happening
Yeah.
and they needed to
so
put them
there's
down.
restrictions on police. You can use force to what's the thing? Defeat a threat, right? But once the threat is gone, regardless of what they've done, that legal use of force goes away. Now, to put this in the context of the home, this is where I said you can use force. In my legal opinion, if I have a firearm in my house and I hear somebody breaking in, and under Canadian firearm storage laws, I go and separately unlock my ammunition and then
And your
separately
gun.
unlock my gun locker,
Yeah.
and then I put it all together,
Yeah.
and then I'm sitting there. But I think what Canada is kind of asking people to say, like, if these are just teenagers who think you're away, right, and are kind of coming in to steal liquor,
Yeah.
in our society, we're not like, you can't just blow 3 teenagers
That's where
away.
it gets tricky, right?
But also it's middle of the night, it's dark, you're breaking and entering
Yeah.
into a dwelling home is an indictable offense. So it's a very serious offense.
Well, look at all of that's happening right now, right? Where people are being broken into just for their car keys so they can
Yeah.
have their, like in those kind of cases, I think people are scared and they want to be able to protect themselves and their families. We see all these videos of all these doors being broken in
Yeah.
by four kids, like in the middle
They're
of the
actually
night.
kind of taking advantage of it in a way because because you can't really use lethal force to defend property.
Okay.
You use, to defend life, right?
Yeah, you can't.
But yeah, so to defend property, like if somebody's breaking into your car, you can't shoot at them outside with your shotgun.
Yeah, but if they're
You know,
breaking into your house,
if they're breaking into your house, but what people are trying to impose on a citizen is you have to know that they're coming for you.
what other reason would they be there for?
Well, but you just brought it up.
just for car keys.
Is there's a whole regime of people who are breaking into houses to go into the kitchen to get the car keys.
Yep.
To leave because you can't break into it, right? And so it's almost like people now know that those break-ins aren't designed to harm the homeowner.
Yeah.
So if you say I shot them, you may be in front of a court saying, well, no, you got a Land Rover there.
How can you be sure though?
Well, you can't be sure.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But I and this is where it's bogus in a way. But if you're upstairs in the bedroom, right?
You have to wait for them to come upstairs.
Yeah. If they come into the bedroom,
Yeah.
right? And they say, give me the key. You know what I mean? Like, it's difficult. But we used to have a phrase in the military. It was like, I'd rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6.
Right?
Right?
Yeah,
Six
exactly.
pallbearers. But you have to use that very intelligently. Like, there are some people who are looking for a reason to blow somebody away who breaks in their house. There are just some people who own a bunch of guns.
Yeah.
And they're like, I bought these guns.
I'm going to use
so
them.
I can have a self-defense moment.
Yeah.
And they're just hyper vigilant for it. So they have to be careful. And then it requires a high level of legal proficiency to defend that case.
Yeah.
Which
is why they call
in my
you.
post, I said, you can use lethal force to defend your home when somebody
Yes.
breaks in, especially if they come into your bedroom,
Right?
right?
Like,
But
yeah.
like if you walk in, they're going through a jewelry box in another room and you shoot them in the back, it's dicey.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and some prosecutors might try to make an example of you but
Like, let's say 2 cars in the driveway.
yeah.
These people break in, they go upstairs, they know everybody's home.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
at that point, when do you think it's okay to...
Like, are they stealing the cars or what?
No,
Because the question
they go
is,
upstairs.
but then the question is why? Like in the States, there's way more home invasions where they like take people hostage for money,
Yeah.
or they
Yeah.
sometimes there's home invasions where they want to sexually assault
children.
a female,
Yep.
right? But there's easy targets for that and hard targets for that, right? So it's rare that that's going to happen in a suburban environment where a gang is going to come in and abduct your
For
child.
no reason, right? There's
right?
usually a linked reason
Yeah.
why they're at your house.
Like somebody in your house owns a giant gambling debt.
or
Right? Or you don't know
selling
your husband
drugs or
is
something.
like doing something like
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah.
that would be it. So you have to be careful about the use of lethal force, but you can use as much force as necessary to defend yourself. Like we've had cases where 2 people are in a consensual fight, you're allowed to get into a consensual fight and you're allowed to win a fight. But what I'm not allowed to do is if I'm fighting you and I knock you onto the ground and you can't move, I can't keep stomping you because you
Consented to the fight.
or you did something, you hurt me a lot, right? You can subdue the threat, but you're not allowed to go that extra mile. And that's where emotions can play a big game. And the legal system isn't perfect because it's hard to put yourself in the place of somebody who's in a
Yeah.
high adrenaline situation.
Exactly.
So for your friend who asked the question is, you can.
I'll just phrase it the way he phrased it, okay? He said, if someone put a sign in their window that said, this house is guarded by shotgun 3 nights a week, you guess which 3? And they were wrong on which night it is that considered fair warning?
It's kind of like saying beware of dog, and if you go when you get bitten by
Yeah.
a dog, right? But it doesn't change the law of self-defense that if somebody is coming in to kind of steal the car keys inside the front door and they open the door,
And you're standing there with a shotgun.
You can't have a shotgun set up that you can remotely blast somebody just because you had a sign,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The beware of dog is like, hey, if you come in here, there's a dog that could be an issue. And so you're entering the premises understanding
on your will,
there's
yeah.
a dog that may bite you. And that sign is for people who are invited in.
Yes.
That's what it's mostly for.
Yes.
It has an additional benefit of
Keeping people away.
keeping people out. So, what I would put a sign on is not 3 days a week. I just say gun owner,
Yeah.
right? And I heard an interesting comedy sketch, which is interesting in terms of politics, in terms of what signs you put on your home. Because if you put a Trump sign on your home, I bet you there's a far less likelihood you're going to get broken into than if you put a Kamala sign, because it means there's going to be a white guy for Kamala in there that probably doesn't own any guns and can't curl anything in the gym. So probably a better time. I'm just saying,
Oh my God.
everything signals to people in terms of,
Yeah.
in terms of what makes you exposed. So there's lots of ways to help you not get broken into at your house, especially from a safety concern perspective.
Yeah.
Ring cameras, right? My Tesla, the beauty of the Tesla is it has cameras all around it. And anytime anybody comes close, all the lights come on. A big thing on the screen says, you're currently on camera.
Oh my God.
Right? So nobody kind of screws with it.
Yeah.
It's intimidating, but so having, motion sensor lights, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think, motion sensor light with a soft thing that says you're now being recorded.
Yes.
Would be interesting, right?
Right? Yeah.
Alarm system, how many people put alarm system signs on their lawn that don't even
have them.
So I know that some people who do home invasions, they actually canvass a neighborhood and ignore the beware of dog signs, but actually look for the signs of a dog.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the actual signs of
I heard they also like go door to door pretending to be
salespeople all the time.
So they can
I've seen this multiple times as a prosecutor. They'll go through a neighborhood selling some sort of insurance or encyclopedia.
Or Bell or Rogers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bell or Rogers is harder because you can kind of confirm, ask for the badge number, but all they're trying to do is see who's home.
Yep.
Look inside,
and what you have in there.
See if there's paper, there used to be newspaper stuffed up on there.
You know what
and
I
then
have?
they come back at night.
I have a no soliciting sign.
Yeah?
So the people who actually know, the people who are there for a reason, they don't ring my bell. Because they know that no soliciting sign means do not come here trying to sell something. So I know anybody who rings my doorbell is not there for a good reason.
Yeah.
I don't open the door.
Yeah, fair enough. It's quite intimidating to get somebody to knock on your door. Whereas in the old days, it was kind of welcome. Hey, who's in the neighborhood? Who's cool, right?
It's hard to get somebody to actually open the door.
But that's why I like the ring.
Yeah, me too.
I just find it's not good remotely. It's so slow.
It's and it's like already 5 seconds late.
But why can't, if I can do a FaceTime video on my Wi-Fi at home, why can't my door camera have real-time Facebook? It should be somebody presses it, I immediately pop up, and there it is.
Exactly, and it doesn't take you a minute for it to turn and come up.
Yeah, we're going to plan to get rid of the ring because for some reason it's always delayed.
Yeah, always.
It's annoying as hell. I don't know why, and it's connected to the same Wi-Fi that we watch
Everything
YouTube
else.
on.
Yeah, you can be sitting in your house and the doorbell rings, and it still takes a minute to load that video.
You just motivated me to go back and improve that doorbell camera because it should be way better.
Yeah. So I have another question for you. A post you did recently about the gentleman with the flag. I haven't heard any more on that.
Yes, hi.
So I was wondering if there's any updates.
All right, well, this is controversial. That was a post of a gentleman who protested an event that was called Drag Queen Story Time. So in a public park, there was drag queens reading stories to children. This gentleman had a couple of Canada flags on his car and had heard about it and so drove by the park and honked his horn. And there was quite a large gathering of people kind of advocating for trans rights. All politics aside, one is allowed to protest, one is allowed to honk their horn, just like, multiple protests. But what happened is the group were able to kind of walk around and surround the truck, and we're just screaming at the person for
with his family in the truck, right?
Yeah. Right. So, having your family there, who knows? But there was a kid in the back and the wife, but I don't think he anticipated having his car swarmed by a bunch of angry people from a honk. His side view mirror was broken off. One of the flags was ripped off. His wife got out after the side view mirror was knocked off and she was assaulted. And then he got off and told people to back off and picked up the last flag and was kind of waving it in front saying
to get people to back off. Yep.
Yeah. And so he was charged with causing a disturbance and possession of a weapon dangerous, in brackets, a Canadian flag. That wasn't sharpened to the point of a spear.
It was attached to his car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of them was taken and the police were called, and even though the wife was assaulted and his truck was damaged, and somebody actually got into the back seat of his car to talk to the kid, but kind of like, are you okay? Your parents are crazy. You know what I mean?
Do you need help?
I believe that there's, a political motivation to charges that doesn't apply the law equally.
Yeah.
If that had been reversed with different demographics at play, I don't think the driver of the car would have been charged.
No.
But in this particular case, it was characterized as a hate crime.
Because he was protecting his family.
Because he was charged. No, because he went and honked. But they were essentially saying, the Crown Attorney, that it was a hate crime. He hates trans, And so he went to disturb it. And it kind of undermines the concept that people can disagree about things
Yes.
without it being hate. But you can label something as hate if you don't. Anyhow, he went to trial. He was acquitted of the cause of disturbance, but convicted of the possession of a weapons dangerous, namely a Canadian flag. So yeah, we're going to appeal that because it seems to be an unfair application of the law, and a breach of the charter. So we're trying to raise some money for that because it's a lot of these cases will never get appealed because people can't afford to go through the appellate process. They try to defend themselves, but then you just end up, and people know that, like, it costs you $10,000 to $20,000 to try and protect yourself, and then to say, just plead guilty, get in line, be obedient.
Yep.
So this case is of interest to me because I just want to make sure the law is applied
Properly.
equally to people who protest,
Yep.
right, as opposed to kind of a political difference
Backing.
in how it's done. And they're a nice family. Like, I would tell anybody who's doing that, like, protest intelligently. Don't be overly confrontational, but you're
But how
allowed
is
to
a
protest.
honk confrontational?
Well, that's from my perspective, the honk was a communication that I don't agree with that story time.
But he didn't get out of the car.
No, I know, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
that's what society
Yeah.
is that I don't agree with it, and then everybody is like, how dare you disagree with this?
Yes.
But if it was like white supremacists having a story time, so they're reading stories about, you know what I mean? And then protesters came by and honked a horn saying, we didn't agree with that. Like, and the reverse happened. I doubt that the driver of that car would be arrested and charged.
Yeah, exactly.
They would have characterized everybody as violent who is, so we just need the fair application of the law. But that case has gotten a lot of attention
Yes.
media-wise. And I'm not about the politics. I'm just about the fair application
You're about the fairness of law. Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes we can kind of forget to do that because we're trying to keep the newspapers happy or special interest groups that are very vocal happy. And
Absolutely.
certain segments of our population are being treated at different standards. That's why I'm giving speeches to different law schools about this across the country.
And I understand that you're not, like, your forte is not in the family law, but I have a lot of people right now that are talking about divorce, and they're talking about the costs of divorce and mediation instead of divorce. I was actually talking to a mom the other day about it, and she wanted to know what the differences were between the two.
So it's interesting. Like, I could have made a lot of money in family law.
Yeah.
Like, people want like an ex-military guy. Like, but the family law legal system is very broken, and it allows lawyers to make a lot of money off of people who are angry at their spouse.
Yeah.
And a
Emotionally,
breakup,
and
a breakup can get very emotional, especially if somebody cheated.
Of course.
Or often parents of one of the parties fuel it.
Yes.
And if one parent can fund a divorce, they will punish the other side who can't afford it.
Yeah.
And so you can see some very unfair custody arrangements, so just some brutal stuff happening. So even though I was doing a little bit of family law when I started, I refused to practice in it just because it wasn't rewarding at that level. Like, you make money, the more misery,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And there are some cases that require a hardcore trial lawyer, but
course.
most of them just require both parties to sit down and be honest and reasonable.
Put emotions aside.
So, like, I offer like a $500 consult to sit down with people and say, hey, look, if you go that direction, just give $100,000 from each of your college funds to
Yeah.
2 different lawyers.
Exactly.
And after 3 years, you're going to be probably
Broke.
within 5% of what I'm going to tell you to settle today.
Yeah. They could
And
all
they're
they could
just-
all be it could all be taken care of by one sit down with you.
Or just being reasonable, because the laws are actually not that complicated. The spousal support guidelines are clear. The child support guidelines are clear. If everybody's being honest, you should be able to split it up.
Yeah.
And not argue about who gets a coffee table. But that $1,000 coffee table translates into 20. Every letter in family law is $500 to $1,000.
Yeah. Exactly.
So every time you're telling your lawyer, oh, so and so did this, they're like, okay, I'll write a letter.
Every time you email.
It's like cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yeah.
And it's just playing off of human behavior. So first and foremost, people are allowed to separate. There's no punishment for infidelity either in Canadian law. So things don't change because one person cheated. People are considered adults who can make decisions one way or another, but the legal framework for a divorce is fairly straightforward, and proving bad behavior is a high standard, especially if you want to demand custody.
Like full
that's
custody.
not 50-50. The default is 50-50.
Yeah.
Right? Most people don't know that. But then it gets leveraged because the dude knows that the mom would be broken, if it was 50-50. So he asked for 50-50, even though he doesn't really want 50-50.
As a negotiating
And he
point.
goes, okay, so don't make me pay spousal.
Yeah, and I'll give you.
That's brutal,
I know,
right?
yeah.
But that's a whole different question. What was your friend's question again?
Mediation. What are the good ways to go about mediation rather than going to a lawyer? Rather than going through the whole
The problem
process.
with mediation in family law is that it's primarily populated by ex-family law lawyers. So now it ends up costing. Legally mandated family mediation is run by lawyers. But you could go to your own mediator. You could go to your own clergy, right? But you need to be informed. So, but like, I see a lot of separation agreements come up that people have written themselves.
Yes.
Some of them are enforceable. Some of them aren't enforceable. But if both parties are happy with it, it can result in a rather seamless divorce. Right. But just know that if party later becomes unhappy, they can bring it back.
Yeah.
Especially if you've lied on financial statements. Generally, a party can't make an informed decision on separation unless they have a full picture of the financials. So I find that, there's cases where men are hiding assets in some cases,
always, yeah.
or not always,
No,
but like if somebody,
often.
but if two people are divorcing and they're both on salary at the school board, you don't
There's
need
nothing
a
to
family
hide.
lawyer. It's clear.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like when there's multiple corporations or stuff's going on, like that's where it can be a problem. So
Can I ask you a sub question on
Sure.
that? Okay, so let's say you're separated. You each have your separation agreements. It was never discussed in the separation agreements about travel. And let's say the mother wants to take the children back to her home country, wherever that is, Europe, whatever. And the husband says no. Is there legal ramifications at that point? Is it considered...
that's why the separation agreement, like if you, like we have precedents, but like if you have a good precedent, it's generally kind of anticipated all the questions that come up, like what's going to happen at Christmas?
Yeah.
Who gets March break? Alternating. What happens in the summer? And if somebody does like to go home, you would want that put into the separation
Of course,
agreement.
yeah.
Because if somebody starts playing silly bugger after, then you can bring it to the family courts and they'll be punished for, but then their argument will be like, I'm not doing it anymore because I didn't get one Wednesday. Like it's just, the potential for stupidity and pettiness in family law is so huge. And it comes at great cost to the children and your pocketbooks that it's better to be able to sit down. But the problem is some people can't deal with their partner not loving them anymore.
Yes.
And so want to hurt them.
Yep.
And in the end, they spiral themselves down. So contemplating all of the things, but it's an interesting topic just because there are some countries where extradition rules aren't that clear. And so there are some countries in the Middle East, if one of the parents take the child there, right?
There's
not
nothing
coming
you can
back,
do.
right? Like,
Well,
especially
I'm
with
just
men.
talking
Like
about
if
on
a man-
vacation.
yeah, but like, like if somebody's from a country where men have more legal rights than women and they bring their kid back to that country, might not bring it back.
Yeah.
And then that's his way of punishing the woman who didn't want to live under his bullshit dominance.
Exactly, yeah.
So then that's why they ask you if you're traveling, do you have a letter from the mother giving you permission to travel? It should be signed by a lawyer.
It should be.
It could be fabricated. So there's a lot of stuff. The bottom line is marry good people and don't blame people for falling out of love.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Try to minimize costs and complications because more than 50% of people get divorced in the end. So it's normal.
Yeah. At this point.
It's still painful as hell, but it's
of course
normal.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always say till death do us part was invented when the average lifespan was 34. Right?
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
34, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But now people are
yeah.
living a lot longer and people really change. So work on keeping things together. I think marriage should be more like...
If you don't change together.
5-year contracts renegotiated every 5 years.
7 years, isn't it? The 7-year itch.
That's what marriages should be. And then people are incentivized to keep performing in order to keep the contract.
Like a business contract.
Yeah, but if you say till death do us part and I can just shut her down,
Yeah.
right? You're kind of like, that's an old religious...
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, like
and it doesn't
I can
matter
forget
because
about
till death
romance,
do us
or,
part.
you know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you're my prisoner. And if you don't stay with me, you're a bad person. Well, no, that's not the way it's supposed to be, right? Back in the old days, religion wanted people to stay together. But today, like, you have to be compatible and good people together. So, I don't mind giving those consults if it saves people $100,000 each.
And would you consult on something like that?
Yeah, like I've hopped on Zooms with both people and just kind
Really?
of said, hey, this is my understanding of family law. This is what I would do to avoid,
Yeah, the legal costs.
the
That's
legal
a great
costs,
idea.
right? And that $500 ends up saving them $60,000.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great thing. I don't think
The other thing
maybe
we've done is we can give people a sample separation agreement. They can go through it together, come back with some
addendums.
addendums, and then we can put it together. Both sides then have to have independent legal advice. Generally, if you want something to be enforceable,
Has to have
you should have independent legal advice to say that, or you have to write that you're waiving it, that you don't need it. And maybe another topic later is insurance for prenuptial agreements.
I have never heard of that.
No, there isn't. But I actually wanted to sell insurance at one point in law school. We came up with the idea of selling it divorce insurance.
And how would that work? Like,
No, we
it
were
would
trying
be
to
like,
just create it. We're just saying, okay, like your corporation can buy you divorce insurance, and so the corporation that you're in control of spends $100,000 a year on divorce insurance that goes into a separate thing. So when you get divorced, it's not on the line, right? But
and then
was
maybe
kinda
you like
sneaky.
set out the terms right in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then those terms are exactly what you divorce at later on. So instead of like the, make so much more money and down there, like whatever. Yeah.
Anyhow, great talk.
Yeah.
I hope this was helpful to your audience. And
And Philip, if people want to reach out to you, how do they connect to you?
you can go to my law firm website, www.millarslaw.com, millarslaw.com. Follow me on Instagram at @theroguelawyer _ to receive what I feel are very entertaining social media comments on
Sure.
where the world is and no punches pulled.
Absolutely. And also on my page, I have tagged you in quite a few things. So if you look on my page, you'll see the Rogue Lawyer there as well.
My takeaway is know what you're insured and work with somebody you trust, or else you will live with a lot of regret.
In many different ways.